I had gone missing for a couple of days when I initially broke, and my husband was concerned, and, eventually they tracked me down, and my mom and sister came up from Texas, my brother and my dad came up from further north, and they all kind of made a collective decision as a family that it was in my best interest to go to the hospital and take an evaluation. And so they ended up calling the cops and let them know the situation, and the officers came out. There were about, oh my goodness, there were about like 20 officers in our condo, and I was so confused. They were all super nice and I remember they treated me very well, but I didn't know why there had to be so many, but I guess I was acting pretty crazy. Anyways, so I wasn't violent or anything like that. I never resisted or anything. I was just completely out of my mind. One officer offered for me to ride in the back of his car instead of taking the ambulance to save money. Very kind. Also, all my neighbors watching me leave my house with cops and get in the back of the cop car. It's a great look. They probably still wonder what the heck happened, but this is it. I had a mental breakdown and a psychotic break, and got taken to the hospital. So they had an evaluation, definitely concluded that, something was wrong. Before they checked me into the psych unit, they discovered that my potassium levels were deadly low. One nurse called it a miracle that my heart was still beating. They'd never seen potassium levels so low with a heart still beating. So I think that was from COVID and malnourishment in that area. I was down under 100 pounds, 90 something when I entered the hospital, and they had asked me if I, had an eating disorder because I looked very sick, and I said, no, I think I don't know, probably the COVID or whatever, and they concluded that the potassium levels along with my weight loss were probably from COVID. I was kept under watch in an observation room for quite a while until they checked me into the psych unit, and there I received potassium supplements. I received therapy. I think it was either the first or second day when they put me on an antipsychotic and lithium. They had concluded that my diagnosis was bipolar at the time. I'd later find out that this was a misdiagnosis, but at the time, this was what they had concluded. And they thought that I was on this manic episode, and that was to explain the psychosis and things like that. And to me, it really made sense as well, with my limited functioning ability to comprehend reality. So I accepted the medication, I accepted the therapy. The psych unit, being in the hospital, it definitely was a very difficult experience, but I still was very out of it. And so I definitely just kind of went along with, what the doctors were doing and saying, and sort of just existed. It was a very interesting time. Looking back, it was difficult, but at the same time, I was still so out of it that I still didn't comprehend my reality, that, I was in psychosis, and that I was in the mental hospital. That didn't compute completely. For quite a while, I probably would have stayed longer. They let me out after a week, and they were going to keep me longer, but my family down in Texas, my mom and my stepdad, offered their home for me to come and continue recovering, and there was also an outpatient therapy program there that would be covered under my stepdad's insurance for me. And so my family sort of made this decision. Again, I wasn't really capable of making decisions for myself at the time. So my family made the decision that it would be best for me to go down to Texas to continue recovering. So I drove. My mom and my brother came and picked me up. I stayed with my dad for a night, and then we headed down to Texas, my mom and my brother, to get me settled there. And I would spend about the next month in still denial, like still not completely understanding what was going on. Things started to slowly set in over time when I slowly started coming back to reality, and I kept feeling over and over and over again for about a year, like, oh, now I'm back to myself. Oh, now I'm back to myself. Like, I kept feeling like I was slowly coming back to myself, and I think it confused people because, like, I'd say, oh yeah, I think I'm back to myself, and then like 2 weeks later I'd be like, oh yeah, I think I'm back to myself. Like, it was just a continual progression of my mind coming back to reality. But it probably was about a month after I got out of the hospital when I fully started to come back. Like I could say at that point, like, I was no longer in immediate psychosis. Like I had recovered a great deal at the 1 month mark. And it was devastating. Just to come back to reality and, you know, see all the people that I hurt, to see the destruction that I had caused. It was brutal. I just remember feeling so out of control. And I'm a person, I like to feel in control. I like to feel like, you know, I've got a handle on things, and to be out of control like that, to have, you know, not only did all these people I hurt, you know, I couldn't fix it all at once. I couldn't just send out a mass text and be like, I'm sorry, I can't believe this happened. I wasn't in my right mind. Please forgive me. It was so much more delicate than that, and so many people had been hurt in such, you know, a devastating way that I had absolutely no power to fix things. And to know that not only did I hurt these people, but they also, you know, like, I did monstrous things. I did monstrous things, and, you know, to have the closest people in your life, and so many people in your life, basically your entire support system, know, you know, these intimate details of your life, things that you shared while you weren't in your right mind, you know, having them know all of those things and be so exposed like that. It is, like, so tough, you know, to feel that, to come back to reality and see that, wow, you know, like, everything's out of control, everybody knows all my business, and here I am just, you know, broken. I had no idea how to pick up the pieces. I couldn't even take care of myself. I couldn't even, you know, so many things were broken in me, and I wanted to get back to my children, I wanted to get back to my husband, but so much had happened there, and I wasn't prepared to, you know, like, I couldn't take care of myself. How am I going to take care of my children and my husband? So it was so devastating to, you know, be so out of control. And so, but all of that said, the hardest part was knowing that I hurt people, and that I couldn't make it better. And I, like, was obsessed with this idea of fixing things with people. I think it delayed my healing a little bit, because I was so stuck on this idea that I needed to fix things with everyone, and everyone would remind me, like, that's not possible. It's gonna take time. The only thing that is going to fix this is time. And to know that was so, like, to have the patience, I wasn't very patient about it. But anyways, so about a month later, started coming back to myself, started feeling like, okay, like I want to get home, like I want to, do these things. So I started making goals so I could progress through therapy. My kids and Logan came down to visit me in Texas, and I came back here with my mom to visit, and she sort of helped me, with taking care of the kids alongside Logan. And we sort of just, tried to rebuild this family unit and try to figure out like how we were going to do this and move forward. And very challenging stuff, let me tell you. Eventually I was able to come back home and resume a little bit of life. It felt very unnerving coming home to, again, my support system, all, knowing what's going on with me. And like in some ways I felt like they knew more about my situation than I knew about my situation, because when I came back to myself, a lot of the things that had happened were sort of suppressed. I couldn't remember the things that had happened, only what people had told me that things that had happened. And there were faint memories of certain things that had happened, but at that time I was pretty in the dark as to the details. And so I felt like a lot of people knew more about my situation than I did. And so, again, very out of control.